Hi all. One of my posts on Facebook attracted this breathless and hysterical, badly written list of accusations as a response. And the poster claims that all of the allegations are true and that he personally checked them himself. I'm calling firstly BS on both of those because they're not all true, and that being the case, he couldn't have checked them himself, so bullshit. Claims such as the ones that appear in this document are difficult to address because they attempt to analyze the thought processes of another person, which is virtually impossible to do because, I'm not in his head. Claims based upon opinions and not facts are the same as wrong answers, no points. Firstly, I must say that whoever wrote this list of accusations was morally outraged, obviously. And he expects the reader to be morally outraged too, or he's doing something and saying that I should be morally outraged. Anyway, judging them true or false is often dependent on whether I'm morally outraged or not. So in attempting to address these claims, I must firstly decide whether the allegations are true, which is often difficult because none of them are specific. And the lack of specifics is a technique for obfuscation, which means that you can shift the goalposts when you need to do them. When you need to do that, your claims can't often be pinned down. Some of them can, but it's difficult. Okay, so secondly, if the accusation was leveled at Trump but began with Obama, or Obama did something similar and there was no outrage, I'm giving it a fail. And this is the case in, I believe, the detention of children and the travel bans related to location in the world, not religion, location. And thirdly, I need to decide if I'm morally outraged or not. And if it doesn't outrage my sensibilities, well, I'm giving it a fail too. And I'm not going to put in links and stuff because then it's just going to be like an extra long video. And at this moment, it's looking like about half an hour. So anyway, Trump mocked and ridiculed this disabled man on live TV. I saw him do something like this. I don't know who it was. And I know that he was trying to be funny. And unfortunately, comedy is often laughing at someone else's misfortune. He was trying to be funny. And that's the reason, in case you were wondering why PC comedy isn't really funny, is because they're not allowed to laugh at anyone. In case you hurt their feelings. People need to learn to deal with their feelings. That's actually more the truth. Okay, so he mocked soldiers who became prisoners of war. Okay, I don't know that he mocked them. From what I understand, he has the utmost respect for people that serve in the military. Okay, but I'm not going to get into that. Again, no specifics. Who, what, where, why, no idea. Again, such claims, you can't really address them without specifics. But I don't think he did. And I did watch some footage of him saying stuff. He said, I'm not quoting him, but I think his words were pretty much like this, that he preferred soldiers that didn't get captured. And also, I believe that he disagrees with the premise that all prisoners of war are war heroes. Okay. I might agree with that premise myself, but it is a matter of opinion. So, I'm going to give it a half a point because for the benefit of the doubt. He spread claims that the then current president was really an African, which were as baseless as they were racist. Okay, well, as baseless as they were racist. I've tried not to use Fox because everyone says Fox is a right-wing network, so I've used the Time magazine. They're quoting Politico here. There is no definite answer to that question. The 2008 iteration of this idea was first circulated by an anonymous email. Of course, the anonymous email they are now trying to put on Trump. Bullshit, calling it right what it is. Audio was released of him bragging about sexually assaulting women. Okay, I'm very embarrassed by it, he said. Okay, this was locker room talk, and many men I know have engaged in locker room talk, bravado and boasting. It happens a lot. I've heard it, been there. So, yeah, I'm giving this one to you. He mocked a senator who was dying of cancer and is widely regarded as an American hero by all sides. I have to assume that he's talking about John McCain. And he also donated, just as a matter of interest, $1 million to John McCain's campaign fund. Okay, I'm also going to give you, half a point. But, I don't know. He called white supremacists who had just murdered someone very fine people. This is complete bullshit. I've dealt with this in other posts. Okay, this was at Charlottesville, and it is his most misquoted speech. In his next breath, he denounced white supremacy. He repeatedly used an epithet against a rival that was both sexist and denigrating to her, as well as to Native American people. Okay, again, completely non-specific. Who, what, when, where, how? I have to assume that it was Elizabeth Warren. And if it was indeed Elizabeth Warren and he did say something like that, well, the American Indians should have been more insulted by her than they were of him. And of course, here there's no point, because there's no specifics. It's impossible to prove such a claim or disprove it. He mocked a Gold Star family who was grieving the loss of their son, a soldier who heroically died in battle while trying to save his fellow troops. Again, completely non-specific. Which soldier? Who? When? Where? How? Okay. And of course, again, from what I believe, he has the utmost respect for military people. From what I also have understand, and during my research, I found that his words were possibly misconstrued. So, people took offense, as people tend to take offense for nothing. I don't know if it was for nothing. I don't know what he said. But people took offense, and others said his words were misconstrued. So no score, because, again, it's opinion. He ordered the kidnapping and imprisonment of innocent children, many of whom later died. Well, firstly, the many of whom later died, everyone's gonna die. Okay, so maybe they did and maybe they didn't, and blaming that on him doesn't work for me. But again, it's bullshit, because, as I said earlier, this was started by Barack Obama. Okay, he was the one that built these detention centers and put children in cages. He was the first one to do it. I'm not saying Trump didn't do it, but there was no outrage when Obama did it, only when Trump did it. So bullshit. He mocked a victim of sexual assault and ridiculed her trauma on live TV. Okay, he mocked a... Again, I have to call this bullshit because it's non-specific, but I have to assume that he's talking about Brett Kavanaugh's accuser, Christine Blasey Ford. This accusation assumes that she was indeed a victim and that her story wasn't trumped up in order to get Brett Kavanaugh disbarred or removed from... It was a political ploy, and that's why I'm calling it bullshit. Okay, because it was a political ploy. Christine Blasey Ford was bullshitting, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many people are concerned. So, her allegations, he mocked. Fine, he mocked her. But she wasn't speaking truth. She never took it to court. She never acted on it. And I'm not saying that there isn't reason why she didn't do that. I know that many victims don't. But to come back 25 or however many years later it was, and now claim, sorry, doesn't wash with me. He sent federal thugs without badges into Portland and Seattle to literally snatch people off the street. Snatching people off the street. This is the attack of the body snatchers. I don't. And it must be assumed that we are talking about the recent update of violent, peaceful protests. Federal agencies have the right to protect federal buildings, and they don't need permission from anyone. And as it happens, some governors actually did ask for his help. And the other thing, of course, as to why they were unbadged, I believe that it was because their families were being targeted. Okay, so as for sending thugs, they were federal agents. And I'm not giving you anything for that, but I'm giving you a half a point because they were unbadged. He instituted a travel ban against people based solely on their religious affiliation. That's not true. He instituted a travel ban against people based on where they came from, the countries that they came from. The fact that those particular countries happen to be majority Muslim countries is by the by. But he didn't do it because of religion, he did it because of location. But of course, Barry Obama did the same thing, and of course, because of that, I'm calling this BS, because no one was outraged when Obama did it. He actively seeks to strip access to health care away from tens of millions of our fellow Americans who are most in need of it and most vulnerable. Okay, this isn't an easy one. I don't think his intention is to strip people of medical care. Okay, I really don't believe that's his intention. I don't think he's such a heartless person. I think he wants to do things better than they've been done. But by all reports, Obamacare was flawed right from the get-go, and many people didn't want it to be promulgated, but it was. Okay, I have to give this one to you purely because I'm not prepared to argue about his intentions. And I said at the outset that I would give you nothing, but I'm going to give you this one. He promoted the false and harmful lie that vaccines cause autism. And yes, okay, this is half a point because Trump has in the past tweeted, and he was an anti-vaxxer, okay? But now, with this corona, he's had a lot of time to think, and he's been exposed to a lot more information, and he's changed his opinion. And he's now very much pro-vaccines. So half a point because it was true, but it's no longer so. Okay, he repeatedly used xenophobic slurs to stir up hatred against Asian people and blame them for the pandemic. Nah, he called a spade a spade. The virus originated in China. The Kung Flu virus comes from China, not from Asia. Asia is a big place. It's millions and millions and millions of people. China's a lot less. Okay, be specific, because non-specificity has unintended victims. Personally, I think the Chinese, whoever did this, I don't think anyone should be experimenting with genetic engineering viruses. I think anyone who does such a thing is irresponsible, and I don't think personally that this particular COVID virus is a natural construct. I think it's a human construct. If the cap fits, let them wear it. The Chinese caused the coronavirus. Maybe it was a natural thing, but they didn't lock it down like they should have done. They were the first people to make the mistake. And of course, nobody's called China out on it except for Trump. The Democrats refused to call China out for what they did. And they did it. Make no mistake about that. Whether it was intentional or not, that's another story. But they did it. He attacked his political opponent's speech impediment and mocked him for having one. Okay, but again, there are no specifics here, so I'm calling no points, no score. He ordered chemical weapons to be used against peaceful protesters outside the White House because he wanted a photo op. His intentions aside, we don't know that it's because he wanted a photo op. That's a judgment based on intention, and I should throw that out. He ordered chemical weapons. That's tear gas. I've been tear gassed. I've tear gassed myself. It's known as crowd dispersement tear gas. And peaceful protesters, I'm not 100% sure they're peaceful, because so many times peaceful protesters has been used, and the protests have been very, very visibly violent. So I don't like peaceful protesters, and I don't like outside the White House because he wanted a photo op. Okay, tear gas is not a chemical weapon, and this whole thing is a complete exaggeration and use of inflammatory language to try and make a point that doesn't really need to be made. And according to USA Today, it was Bill Barr that ordered it, not Trump. He referred to predominantly non-white nations as shithole countries. Well, it's his opinion, and quite frankly, his opinion doesn't generate any moral outrage by me. I come from Zimbabwe. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and it's a shithole country now. Used to be beautiful, but it's a shithole now. And I cite examples as much of Africa. South Africa's becoming a shithole. Bad management, corruption, theft, bad government. He's right. The truth hurts. Not PC, but true. From many, many perspectives. He attacked his political opponent's son on live TV and ridiculed his addiction struggles. I'm an addict. I'm addicted to cocaine. I'm addicted to heroin. I'm addicted to alcohol. I'm addicted to virtually anything that you'll give me if I'm prepared to put it into my body, which mostly I'm not. I've been clean for 23 years, and mock me about my addiction. I have no problem with it. None. Mock me all you like. But, of course, this is, secondary to the real issue, which was that he called his son out, Biden and Biden's son out, on Hunter Biden's use of his father's name and his travel on Air Force One to inveigle himself into certain places and make a lot of money that he should never have made, because he's a man without any sort of qualification whatsoever, except that his father was vice president. That's a good qualification. We used to call it IDB, into daddy's business. So I'm calling bullshit on that one. He openly stated his desire to circumvent democracy, suppress voting, and remain president in violation of the Constitution. Okay, aside from the fact that this is the mainstream media twisting his words as they want to do, this accusation is based upon opinions and conjecture. I've never ever heard him say such a thing, ever. Not in those words. So someone has put words in his mouth to translate what he said into that. That's what the mainstream media does very well. And people that swallow that Kool-Aid, let them swallow it. He refused to take action to stop the spread of a virus, which he has frequently lied about. That's true. He has lied about it. That has swept the entire globe, and even prevented the post office from giving every American a mask to protect themselves. Okay, I'm calling bullshit because he took action very quickly. He banned travel to and from China virtually instantly that he got the information. He was called a xenophobe for it. And I'd like to put the shoe on the other foot and call the Democrats out. What would they have done different? Because when he was saying close down China, they were going to Chinatown to go and express solidarity with the Chinese. And if that attitude continued, America would be dead today. Wow. Ooh, America would be a lot sicker today. People made mistakes. Trump made mistakes. Everyone in the world made mistakes with respect to dealing with the coronavirus. Okay. To call him out on his mistakes, yeah, but what would you have done differently? What will you do differently? It's all conjecture and speculation. You can't prove anything like that. So, again, people mock him because now he has the virus himself and he's sick as a consequence of his own recklessness and arrogance. Oi! Donald Trump, you're such an idiot, you got COVID. Big deal. I'm supposed to be morally outraged by this. Let them mock him. I'll give you half a point. Okay, they're mocking him. Take half a point. But unless there's a vaccine, the virus is going to get everyone at some point. We're hoping there's going to be a vaccine. He's promising a vaccine. People are promising. We don't know. Until such time as the vaccine comes, nobody knows. Okay, half a point for that. And now you're outraged and disappointed and fed up with people around you for being heartless and inhumane and cruel. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm not outraged. You are. That's why you posted it, because you're outraged. What should I be outraged about? If I take on your stuff? Well, I'm not. I'm not going to take on your stuff. It's your selective anger that says more about you and your own heart than it does about anyone else. Again, I'm not angry. It's you're the one that's angry. So get a life. Get over this Trump derangement syndrome, which is obviously a very, very big part in your life. Trump derangement syndrome, very sorry for you. Have a nice day. Thanks all for listening.